Welcome to the Money Manifestation Mastery podcast with your host, Lara Waldman, where we talk all things money. Big money, big purpose, big power. Waking up your wealth for heart-centered business owners and entrepreneurs. In today's episode, I am sharing my big, beautiful breakthrough. I'm going to be sharing the behind the scenes of something very painful and difficult that I've been moving through, that I've been trying to heal and transform over a long period of time. And I'm going to share how I use the manifestation mastery method, the tools and techniques that I share with you in this podcast that help me transform this block and find myself with so much energy and a new level of liberation and freedom on the other side. Let's dive in. Hello there. How are you doing? I'm sending you so much love. I'm giving you a blast of Lara Love for whatever you're currently facing, going through, dealing with. It's going to be okay. We've got you. Today, I am on the other side of a big, beautiful breakthrough that I wanted to share with you today. Part of me can't quite believe it. I've been working on this block for what feels like forever. There's a part of me that's been working on this block for over 2 decades. And I've been working with it really specifically over the last 3 months. And I would say I've been gearing up to this shift over the last 18 months. It's been very painful and uncomfortable behind the scenes in my personal life. And I have been using the manifestation mastery method day in, day out to support myself through this process. And I thought it might be interesting and helpful for you to hear a little bit about my personal journey and what I've been doing behind the scenes to support the beautiful breakthrough that I'm sitting in now. On the other side of a breakthrough, it feels amazing. And it's all been worth it. And as well as teaching and facilitating this work and wanting to give it to you and support you and help you, I am the number one student of this work. I am living it and breathing it every single day. And I understand how challenging it can feel, how painful it can feel, how uncomfortable it can feel when you're moving through change. The tumble dryer of transformation, as I like to call it. I get it. I've been through this over and over again. And the reason why I keep going on this ride and the reason why I keep playing this game is because I know that there is something so beautiful on the other side. And I have learned through trial and error, through playing this game over and over again, that there is a great gift ready and waiting on the other side of the pain portal to prosperity. And I also, in the middle of it, in the depth of the darkness, really have to coach myself through this. I have to work to stay disciplined and focused, to not bail, to not shut down, to not give up, because there is always a part of the self that wants to lean into comfort. And it is uncomfortable moving through change. And I completely understand why people don't change. I get it. But I also think it is a very short-term decision to stay stuck that actually has a big cost. And this is what I see. I see it everywhere. I see it with family members. I see it with friends. I see it with people who come into my business and want support. I see people staying stuck in the same patterns and the same cycles, day after day, week after week, month after month, year after year. And what I see is if we don't actively do something to create change, change doesn't happen. Or change happens to you, because life will kick your ass If you don't face your pain and problems will face you. And then at that point, it's so hard to shift and change and turn it around. It's still not impossible. Unfortunately, most human beings, most of us don't really go through change until we absolutely have to, until we're on the floor. But I also think, what if we don't have to wait until utter devastation, until ill health or, bankruptcy or marriage falling apart? What if we could be on the front foot? And this is my passion. Let's be on the front foot and play the game consciously and mindfully. Then it's fun. Then we're playing the game of creation. And then you feel empowered in this work. Rather than life happening to you, you are taking the reins and riding through life. Of course, you're still going to get knocked off the saddle. You're still going to get knocked off the surfboard when these waves come. But you're consciously choosing to play the game. You're working consciously and mindfully with life rather than life doing you, if that makes sense. So this is the game that I play, and this is the game that I choose to play over and over again because the rewards are great. But the discomfort can be very strong when we're in the middle of that change and transition. And what I've learned is there are peaks and there are pits. So right now I'm coming into a peak. I've been in a pit and I'm coming out and I'm going into a peak. But I'm also aware that there'll be another pit. I'm in a high at the moment because I'm experiencing the joy, the liberation of moving through a block. And then suddenly all of this energy is available to me and I'm like on fire. Let's go. It is time. But of course something else will happen and I'll get a knock or a setback and then I'll go back into a pit. Sometimes I experience the pit and peak cycle in one day. Sometimes there's little peaks and little pits, but sometimes there's big pits and big peaks. And this is part of life. But the game is, how do we stay calm in the center of it? Be the calm in the eye of the storm. So even when I'm experiencing a peak right now, I know to stay calm and centered. Part of me just wants to jump for joy and get super excited. But I also know that if I get too high on the peak, I will burn out, right? And if I get too low in the pit, I will collapse. So it's about how I hold myself through the ups and the downs and actually not getting attached to either outcome. Knowing that this too shall change, but just ride the wave. Be in this moment. I've caught the wave. I'm riding the surfboard. Just enjoy it, but understand at some point that wave is going to end and I'll come off the surfboard. And that's the game. It's not right or wrong, good or bad. It's not about success or failure. It's just the game of conscious creation. Creating in life, guided by your soul, guided by your heart, guided by your body. Where we're really in tune with nature, our inner nature and our outer nature, and tapping into the flow. Where is the flow? So I think surfing is a great analogy because even the best professional surfers fall off their surfboard. And so this is why you got to make friends with failure and understand that failure doesn't mean that you're a failure. It's just the game. It's just how the game works. So I'd like to share a little bit about this block I've just busted through with the awareness that I'm going to hit up against another edge. There's going to be another block. It's not necessarily done and dusted. But in some ways, I've been working on this for what feels like forever. And what I can see now is it's actually just taken me a very long time to make a clear decision. And I made a clear decision to end this cycle and to bust through this block. It's taken me this long to simply decide because I was in a huge inner conflict between who I am and what I'm here to do and my comfort zone, my attachments to my past, my attachments to people in my past. And this attachment originated with my mother. I call it my mother wound. I've always felt that I'm stuck between a rock and a hard place with my relationship with my mom. There's who I am, and then who I felt I need to be in order to stay in relationship with my mother. But my relationship with my mother activated my healer. I would not be here without that relationship, without me feeling unmet and misunderstood and rejected on a deep, fundamental level. I have been on a wild journey, essentially trying to understand how to heal my mom. And I have failed to heal my mom. I have failed to fix the problem. And I was doing triple backflips to try and save and rescue her. And this core wound, this mother wound, this desire to save and rescue and heal my mom, then manifested into my business. So I have been doing triple backflips, trying to help, heal, save, and rescue everyone. And I understood this wounded healer part of myself many years ago. It's my little Miss Fix-It, as my therapist called it. And I understood a long time ago that this wasn't working for me. This was a huge energy leak. And this was actually the source of my money problems. And this was the source of my business problems. And this was the source of many relationship problems where I was giving, but I wasn't receiving. There was a lack of reciprocation because I didn't know how to receive. And I wanted to give, but I didn't know how to receive. And I was in a very funky dynamic when it came to all of my relationships. My relationship with money, business, people, myself, the world, life. And being on the other side of this breakthrough is extraordinary because I can see crystal clear that it was all just a story. It was like the great illusion that felt so real. And I've been working really hard to transform this block, to heal this mother wound, and to rewire this whole game. And this has come from the guidance of my soul, guidance of my heart, guidance of my body. I've known for a very long time what I need to do, what I need to let go of. But I was in an inner fight. I was in huge conflict because I either felt that I choose myself or I choose my mother. If I choose myself, I'll destroy my relationship with my mother. I always thought it was going to be me or my mom. And I thought, okay, I'm going to try and help my mom, heal my mom, fix my mom, because so then we can do this together and we can be together and we can grow together. And at some point, I finally understood that she wasn't coming with me, that she wasn't choosing this path. And I actually wasn't honoring her. I wasn't respecting her decision to stay where she was. And in a way, that's how it's been designed. She was never going to come with me because this was the activation of my work. I wouldn't be here. I wouldn't have this podcast if it wasn't for this. And I've had to learn the hard way how to unhook, how to dismantle, how to release these patterns and programs, these stories, in order to step into who I truly am and what I'm here to do. On the other side of this story, of this block, I realize there's been so much confusion, so much distortion, so much misinformation inside of my beautiful body and my beautiful brain. And these old trauma patterns that had me seeing things in a really distorted way. And I took that, like I said, into all areas of my life, but also into my marriage. And I've been working hard on manifesting in my marriage because this relationship has been a relationship of healing. And we have been growing and evolving together. And I have learned so much from the mirroring of this relationship with my husband. So I tried for many years to try and help and heal my mom. And then I had to give that up. And then I went into trying to help and heal others. And then I tried again to come into connection with my mom on the way that I wanted and needed. And that didn't work either. And at the end of 2023, I had a download from my soul that told me something that was very difficult for me to hear. My guidance said, you need to cut all contact with your mom for 1 year. You're cutting contact with your mom to rewire this pattern, to rewire this wound, to rewire your relationship with your mom. And you need space in order to do this. Now, as a healer, I understand the power of space, that in order for change to happen, transformation to happen, healing to happen, we do need space. And sometimes that means taking space from people or places or things that are rehooking us into old patterns, into old habits. My inner self, my wounded self, was in a story of extremes. It was one or the other. It was one or the other. It was me or my mom. If I choose me, I end my relationship with my mom. And for many years, I thought maybe I have to completely end my relationship with her. But my soul was showing me another way, that it wasn't binary. It wasn't either or. I just needed to unhook and detach and rewire myself within this relationship. And in order to do that, I needed space. This was very scary for me to do because I knew it would be disruptive. I knew there'd be kickback, and I knew it would hurt my mom. And yet I decided to make a big, bold decision at the start of 2024 to honor this guidance, because it got to the point where it was either choosing me or choosing my mom. And choosing my mom in the old way meant that I wasn't going to move forward, and it was becoming a huge energy leak. And that energy leak was manifesting in my business. That energy leak was manifesting everywhere. And it was stopping me from moving forward. It was putting water on my fire. And it got to the point where I couldn't do it anymore. I just couldn't do it anymore. And it felt like going through a huge death. It felt like losing everyone and everything. And it felt like the worst breakup ever. That I was unhooking and letting go, not only of my wounded attachments to my mom, but all of my family. And where this pattern was playing out in all of my relationships. So my brain was telling me it's the end. It's like the end of days. It was catastrophizing. It's been this huge loss and so much sadness and so much grief. And also the pain of being misunderstood, because I long to be understood. And I long to be honored for the work that I do and the healing work that I do. And I just learned that most people don't understand it. If you haven't done transformation work, if you haven't done healing work, if you haven't done trauma work, if you haven't worked hard to really change a core pattern, it's really hard to understand. I've been guided to unhook from a lot of conventional ways of doing relationships in every area of life and honor my heart, soul, and body. And that means that it's counterculture. That means it goes against some of the cultural conditioning or the family traditions. And that's been really, really stressful for me. And it's felt incredibly lonely and incredibly painful. And I felt so misunderstood. And all I wanted was to be loved and honored and acknowledged in the deep, heavy dismantling work I've been doing. And that didn't come. So it's been incredibly brave. It's been incredibly hard and incredibly scary. But what I do know is all the stories that come up in my brain, all the emotions that come up, all my nervous system responses, I know that's not the truth of who I am. It's a reaction. It's the kickback that's going on inside of me, but it's not the truth, even though it feels like the truth. Those stories feel real. Those emotions are alive. The body is reacting and responding. And I have learnt the discipline of the manifestation mastery method, which is, connecting to who you are and what you want, relaxing, releasing, embodying who you are becoming, and opening up to receive, feeling the feelings I don't want to feel, holding space in the unknown, being with everything that comes up, and actually not doing, undoing, and then following the aligned action. And the aligned action can be uncomfortable and scary for our survival brain, for our past version of ourselves. And holding the line and trusting the process, and holding the line and trusting the process, and giving myself time to go through this process, and tuning in when my survival brain is firing, tuning in when my brain is catastrophizing, tuning in when I feel so lonely and so upset, holding that space. And I know, because I've done this over and over again, that eventually there'll be a breakthrough. And I know that there's something so much more beautiful on the other side because my heart's telling me, my soul's telling me, but my brain is screaming a different story. And so this is why it's a daily practice. This is why it's a discipline. And this is why it's essential that you're supported. I have a lot of support to hold me through this now. I hold very powerful transformational space for my clients, but I also need to be held when little Lara is going through a big freak out and a big wobble. So I've learned to pay for support to be held so I can show up and really hold powerful space for others. We all need support. And what's extraordinary is I now have busted through. And I feel like I've come home to myself and I've chosen myself. And yes, temporarily it's been hurtful, but I now understand that, this was never about my mum. This wasn't about my husband. This wasn't about family. This wasn't about other friends. This is about myself and rewiring very deep hardwired patterns, programs, thoughts, beliefs, habits within myself and taking radical self-responsibility for myself. It's easy to project out onto others, and we know ourselves through life mirroring itself back to us. So it always looks like it's being done to you. But I've learned that it's being done for you because you can shift within to transform without. And what I know on the other side of these breakthroughs is that my whole relationship with life looks very different suddenly. What I think, what I feel, what I believe, my perception of reality has just shifted. It's like I've got a new level of clarity. I'm seeing things differently. I'm able to see things I couldn't see before. I'm able to receive things I couldn't receive before. And it is blowing my beautiful brain. It is blowing my mind in the most beautiful way. Because I've been visioning this in for a long time. I've seen it as a vision. I felt it in my heart. My soul's been talking to me. But I haven't been able to embody it. I haven't been able to integrate it and live it through my body. And now that is here and it's landing. Now I will say that those hardwired habits are still there. So I have to still discipline myself to stay focused forward and to still develop this new healthy habit, right? So it's still a practice, it's still a discipline. I have to consciously focus forward into my future rather than being sucked into my past. And this is still part of the practice. We're training ourselves into the future. And it feels a bit vulnerable. It feels a bit wobbly. It feels incredibly expansive. And there's a lot of space and there's a lot of energy. But it's incredibly exciting. I feel more joy. I feel more creativity. I feel more myself. I feel more playful. I feel more possibilities. I feel more expansive. And I'm ready to play on a whole new level. And this is the benefit on the other side. Now, as I said, of course, I'm going to be going up and down. I'm still going to be experiencing challenges and setbacks and all sorts of things because this is the game of life. But what I feel now is liberation. Liberation and freedom and space. And I'm ready to go. And it's all been worth it. When I've been in the depth of despair and the depth of grief and the swamp of sadness and lost in loneliness, it has felt impossible. And yet I used the tools, I used the practice, I stayed focused, I stayed disciplined. I got the support I needed to keep going and to keep moving through. So my friends, wherever you are, if you're in the pit right now or you're in a peak, I am sending all of my Lara love to you. We've got really powerful tools and practices for you. We've got really powerful spaces for you to lean into and to be well supported through whatever you're going through. Your heart, body, soul aligned life, business, finances. You've got to be determined that what you want is really important to you and hold space for the parts of you that are going to want to quit or sabotage or fight or blow shit up. You've got to hold that part of yourself, the saboteur, the one that freaks out, the one that's impatient, the one that feels absolutely fed up. Hold that part. hold that part, come back into leadership, and keep going. So I would love to know where you are. I'd love to know what you're currently facing. Challenges, obstacles, setbacks, pain, or beautiful openings coming your way. I want to hear it all. I want to know where you are. And I want to invite you into the spaces that we have for you to support you. Because there's something really powerful when you come into aligned spaces. When you're with people who are heart, body, soul aligned, it elevates you and it actually allows for the transformation to be easier, faster, simpler. It's really hard to do this work alone, and it's really hard to do this work when you're with people who don't fully get it and aren't doing it. It becomes an energy drain. And it doesn't mean you have to get rid of those people necessarily. It's just about holding yourself and making sure that you are held and supported in aligned spaces and places. It will help to fast track your results. And so what we have coming up next is the Living Abundance Wealth Retreat. This is my free online event for driven, big-hearted business owners, leaders, entrepreneurs, professionals who are here to play a bigger game of business, of finances, of life. And it is going to be over 7 days. It is completely free and it's going to be a powerful transformational portal. And I would love to invite you in there. It is really transformational and I have incredible testimonials from past participants. So you can come and join us via the link below. And we've got live in-person events as well as an offering to apply for a one-to-one wealth expansion session with me. If you are ready to be supported on another level, let's dive in together. This call is completely free as well. My intention is to offer tons of value to you to help you where you are. And if you're wanting more support, if you're wanting to find out how we can support you on a deeper level, we can talk about that. I can share my different offers, my programs. I've got my Living Abundance Mastermind, my Living Abundance Leaders programs, my one-to-one VIP offer. We've got a lot here for you at different levels. So you do not need to struggle alone. You do not need to do this by yourself. If you want to fast track your results, lean in, be supported. It took me so long to learn this. And I want to make sure that you don't stay as stuck and lonely and frustrated and unsupported for as long as I did. It can be much easier and much simpler than you're currently making it. So let me know what's landing for you. I would love to hear. Receive this blast of Lara Love, this firepower to help transform and alchemize your blocks to owning your value, your blocks to receiving, and wake up that wealth that's living inside of you, that source of creative power and energy that lives inside of you now. It's available for you to tap, to play with, to create with now. Thank you for joining us for today's conversation. My big, beautiful breakthrough. I am delighted that you are here, part of this network, part of this community, and I can't wait to be with you again next time.